Hello again, everyone. I'm going to show you a new restoration. This is an Emerson Model 600 7-inch TV. It has the cover on the case like the portable, a lot of the old portable units had. There's what's left of the handle. She's a little torn and wore there. Got a little piece of grill missing here on the front, and that's part of the front, so that's going to be a problem trying to repair that if the missing piece is not inside. I'm hoping it is. Maybe I can glue it back. It does have, looks like, all the original knobs. The actual front looks pretty good if it wasn't for that broken grill there. So to help me decide whether I'm going to try to restore this little set, first thing I'll do is check the picture tube. This is a 7JP4, which most of these little 7-inch set, that was a tube of choice then. So I'm going to test it. Probably just hook it up to the test chassis that I have. That's quicker and that gives you a true test of if the tube is any good. So let's do that first. Then we can decide whether we want to try to restore this set. And just a quick look at the chassis here. Actually looks pretty complete. Like all the tubes are there. Clean looking. So that's encouraging. You'll notice there's two antenna wires hooked up here. Well, one goes to the tuner. This back one, it goes to the external antenna, which is up there in the top of the set. These used a plug-in type and rabbit ear, which I don't have that, so won't be worrying about that. So let's check this tube and see if it's any good. Here's a chassis out of the set, and first thing I noticed was this date. August the 2nd, 1949, it looks like. Unfortunately, the piece of the grill that's missing is not in here. Straightforward chassis like most of these little 7-inch sets are. Get the high voltage going. Usually there's not too much goes wrong other than those high voltage caps and the circuitry in the high voltage. There's selenium rectifier. Don't know if that's original or not. Could be. We'll be replacing that. Another thing I did notice right here, it says Emerson tube. So probably the original tube in the set. One more thing I noticed right here. Pin's broken off of the CRT. There it is right there. Yeah, there it is right there. So a couple of them that are loose. See, that one is. But I'll probably just try to solder that pin back. We don't want to change the base of that tube unless we have to, because that's quite a job to do it correctly. And fortunately, I have this Wallace tele-aids on Emerson TVs from 47 to 53. And here's a Model 600 right here. Bottom view of the chassis with the tube socket, voltages and resistance. That's handy. And there's a chassis layout from the top with all the tubes. Production changes, if it had any. Alright, I have the little Motorola chassis hooked up to the picture tube. And it looks like we got something. Let me turn these LED lights off. Oh yeah, there's a picture. Someone has spliced the AC cord, and could have been 30 years ago, but I don't know. I'm just kind of curious. Maybe the set worked and they spliced that cord on to use it. Well, I'm going to go ahead and do just a power up on the set just to hopefully see if some tubes light up. Don't expect it to work, but might be surprised. So we'll turn the power right on. And it's about 85 volts. And drawing some current. About 0.6 of an amp, maybe. And I see some tubes lit up. That's about it. No sound. No raster. About what I expected. So first thing we'll do, we'll check all the tubes. Begin restoring this chassis. Alright, all the tubes check good except the vertical oscillator tube. And this tube right here. 6SL7 right here. It checks weak. Does have filaments, of course, but does check weak. We'll just leave it in for now till we get some kind of a raster on the set and we can tell if we've got a vertical problem, then we can replace it then. And as far as checking the 1B3 rectifier tube, I've had questionable results trying to check these tubes. The main thing I look for is filaments, and if you look right in there, it is lighting up, so we know we have filaments. And as far as test, it does test okay, about 65%. And I checked these numerous brands and old, new, and sometimes they don't test very well. So we'll assume it's okay. Put it back in. Kind of an interesting thing that I did find on one of the tuner tubes. This little label says tube purchased from Ideal Radio and Television, Buffalo, New York. So apparently they had replaced a tube in the tuner at some point. And also kind of gives me a clue that this little set maybe came from New York originally, up in that area anyway. Don't really mean anything, it's just something interesting. And as we checked each tube, I did wipe the tubes off, wipe the sockets off, sprayed some cleaner down in the sockets, and wiped the chassis off a little bit. By no means as clean as we'll try to get it if we can get the set going. But as I begin to check the power supply, this selenium rectifier, which is a main B+ rectifier, I noticed this little 2.5 ohm resistor right here that goes from the AC to the rectifier input. It's open, and you can see it's all green on the ends. So the rectifier was not shorted, so I just put a circuit breaker across the 2.5 ohm resistor. And when I did that, powered the set on, I had like 60 volts of B+, which is about half of what I should have. According to the voltage charts on the tubes, I should have between 125 and 140 volts B+. So I put a modern replacement, and I just unhooked the line going to the filter cap, put it directly to the rectifier, and then this is a line going back to the circuit breaker. So this is AC input, this is B+. And now I have about 115 volts or so, B plus. So if we go on up to 110, I now have 133 volts of B plus. So pretty much close to normal. And after doing that, I do have some sound now. This Wallace tele-aids, and a lot different than a Sam's. But I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Here's a high voltage oscillator tube right here, V16. And in checking the voltages, here on pin 4, the drive voltage is about -10, -8 in that range, so not near enough. It still leads me back to the high voltage caps. Here are two of them right here. They're .001s. I feel like these are original caps. I took the tape off of these two, and looks to me like that's a factory wrap there where they were soldered to the terminal strip. So these are the .001s, and probably those behind it are the .005s. Alright, done a little more investigating. And here's the two .005 high voltage caps. Fortunately, the Wallace tele-aids list these colors on the picture tube socket. The purple and the gray. And those go back to the vertical amp tube. That tube, when I did check it, checked weak, so I may pop a new 6SL7 in just for kicks. Well, changed all 4 of the high voltage caps, no difference. So one thing this Wallace tele-aids schematic has that's kind of similar to the Sam's is resistance readings. And as an example, this is V16, which is a high voltage oscillator tube. You'll look here like on pin 3, the 125 is the B plus DC voltage, and underneath it is the resistance reading. So I'm going to do that next. Check some resistance readings on all of these tubes in a horizontal and vertical circuit. And because controls here on the back of the set, right here, these controls here on the back, none of them are marked. And I think there was originally a tag, paper tag, that went up through here. So I've been spending the last few minutes tracing down each control, and I've marked them here underneath the chassis on the edge. Brightness, horizontal size, vertical size, focus, horizontal centering, vertical centering. And on the front here, this is vertical and horizontal hold, this control. And behind the on-off volume is a contrast. So it gives me a little better idea of how the connections are made underneath the chassis now. I have kind of determined that I've got a big problem here with this 6SL7, and that is V15, which is right there. I'm supposed to have around 300 volts on pins 2 and 5, the plate. And I have about I only have about 25 volts. And those two pins do couple into these 0047 high voltage caps here and down here. So that's definitely why we're not seeing any high voltage. One of the reasons. So we'll do some more investigating. See if I can determine why that tube's not working. That's going to do it for part 1 of the Emerson TV Restore. We'll see you in part 2. Thanks for watching. We hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, and we'd love it if you would subscribe to our channel. Thanks.